Yes, yes, folks. Welcome to episode number 3 of my energy series. Energy policy in South Africa, energy belt, energy infrastructure, suggestions on the way forward with regards to energy in South Africa. I've already done 2 videos, the 2 episodes prior to this one. So I encourage you to go watch those ones because they cover most of what I wanted to talk about. In this episode, I will touch on a lot of miscellaneous issues, including, by the way, renewable energy, which I wasn't going to cover an episode just on it because it is not that important actually on the scheme of things right now because of its scale, because of its unaffordability, and it is just simply not feasible right now. But we will talk about it because there are a lot of opportunities with regards to it going forward for jobs, for research, for development, R&D, and for augmenting energy from nuclear and other carbon sources, which if we're reducing our carbon reliance from coal, going maybe to crude oil and gas, liquefied natural gas. And then we have other sources, obviously, like hydroelectric electricity, which we are currently using in South Africa. Actually, there's a power station, a hydroelectric power station that is in Bergville that we visited when I was in Matric. This was the first time I actually saw a hydroelectric power station. It is 50, it is approximately 100 floors, equivalent of a building that is 100 floors, but underground. It's an incredible plant that was built by the previous regime. It's still operating. It produces probably around 0.5% of our power in South Africa. It's so hydroelectricity is very important. It's carbon neutral. Yeah, so. But I just wanted to discuss, firstly, the issues that arose from the 2 videos that I did, some of the questions that might arise, and some concerns that people might have. Like, for instance, if you're looking in terms of some of the builds that are suggested that will happen, it might look like it's an overkill, that we're building more capacity than we need, both in terms of electrical capacity, electric production, and petroleum products capacity. And yeah, it is, in a sense, might result in overcapacity or overproduction. But why is that not a concern? I'm going to have to use here the words that have been so popularized by President Donald John Trump when he speaks of this United States of America, when he says that America has to be energy independent. America must be a net exporter of energy. That is very, very important, actually. Energy is a national security issue. It is very important for any country, especially a country as powerful and as strong as South Africa, which historically it was, for it to be a net producer of energy, to be a net exporter of energy, to be energy independent, which means that let other people depend on our energy as opposed to us importing energy, and especially the energy that can be imported by South Africa, which is petroleum products. We import quite a bit of petroleum products. It is petrol, and it is obviously unleaded. What is it? Is it 30 something? I forgot now the names. Haven't used a petrol vehicle in a very long time now, or diesel. So what I would say would be, even if it means that we reduce our imports of petroleum product to zero, in order for us to make these bills to make sense, let us do that. Let us do that. Even if it means that after we reduced all of our imports of petroleum products to zero, we still have access, that is fine. That is fine. We can still export that. We can still export that to our neighboring countries, Namibia, Botswana, Swaziland, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, including Zambia, by the way. And to some extent, we might actually have an opportunity to export our petroleum products to as far as Malawi. Obviously, we're exporting to Mozambique, so as far as Malawi, and potentially as far as Tanzania. As far as unleaded, there's 95, which is the more heavier one, and then there's 93, which is the lighter one, unleaded petrol. I think they've actually discontinued all of the red petrol, the leaded one, completely in South Africa, from what I'm understanding. But those cars that were old cars, I think they most of them they use the 95 unleaded petrol. Yeah, so we can actually export our petroleum products as far as Tanzania, Malawi. So we should not worry ourselves about overproduction of petroleum products. And then also we shouldn't worry ourselves about overproduction of electric power, because already almost all of the SADC region relies on South Africa for electricity production. So Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, Botswana, Swaziland, Lesotho, Mozambique. And even though I know that these countries have competent public energy companies, but the scale and the size of them are very small compared to what is needed by their local markets. But also there's the issue of saying that you need a certain level of skill and talent and a number of engineers, which these countries do not really have the capacity to produce as many engineers as are being produced in South Africa. A lot of the other engineers that work in these countries are actually were trained in South Africa. A lot of them were my classmates at the University of Cape Town. I know a lot of them who are working for the public utility company in Swaziland, actually, who we studied together. A lot of them, we studied together at the University of Cape Town, and that's mostly what you're likely to see. But they're still not producing even close to enough engineers to be producing all of the electricity needs that they themselves will need in its entirety. So they would still need us to supply them with a lot of their energy needs. And then also you need to understand that there's a fact that when you're having a plant as the one that I suggested in the second video about a large 400,000 to 600,000 barrels per day of petroleum products being produced, you have all of these other side byproducts, which often need to get processed into chemicals, get processed into fertilizers. And a lot of this stuff, Sasol controls most of that market. But if, say for instance, now we have an overcapacity for that stuff, we would have to sell those products to the export market. And it's very important that for a powerful country like South Africa that you are actually a strong exporter of finished products, chemicals, fertilizers, plastics, all of those things that get produced as byproducts of any petroleum producing plant. So all of those are opportunities. They're going to employ a lot of mechanical, chemical engineers, electrical engineers in that plant. And then those products will have to be sold mostly in Africa, and then the secondary market will be Asia. And to a certain extent, it will have to also be Europe and maybe the United States of America. Yeah, so I would say don't concern yourself too much about overproduction. And then there will be an issue of what about renewables? I think South Africa is in a privileged position as a country that has some of the hottest days in the world. I think some of the hottest days like the hottest day in history was actually recorded to be in South Africa a few days ago in Kimberley. So South Africa, which has sunshine all year long for all 12 months of the year, we're in a unique position to actually harness solar power. And we are at an advantage compared to countries who are even hotter than us, like Namibia or Botswana, because maybe they don't have the capacity that we have, and they don't have the skills and the know-how that we have. So this is to say that a lot can also go into investing in renewables, including wind, by the way, because we have some of them like very windy coastlines, like whether it's PE, whether it's Cape Town. Even though building all of those wind turbines does sort of change the skyline of the coast, it's fine. You can build wind turbines there, and those turbines can actually be produced locally. But with regards to solar, all of these elements that are needed in the solar or in just renewables in general are being produced in South Africa. We produce cobalt, we produce nickel, we produce rare earth minerals, we produce silicon. We might not be the largest producers of these elements, but what can I say? We are producing them, so which means that we are actually in a space where we can actually manufacture lithium batteries, because we are producing lithium. We are in a space where we can manufacture solar panels. So this is to say that though in this particular case of renewable energies, I'm not going to give any specific policy actions, but I'm saying that we are actually in a position where investment can be put into that. And the added benefit with regards to renewable energy is that you have a lot of this money that comes from Europe, because these people want to fund all of these renewable pet projects. So you can take this money, put a lot of it in R&D in South Africa to do and into solar and wind projects in South Africa. Just take the money and put it into use, because the EU and all of these bleeding hard liberals who want to give money for renewables, take the money, put it into use, create jobs. Yeah, so there'll be something that I would say that I would go as far with regards to that when it comes to renewables. But renewables are not something that take up a lot of my time, because they cannot be relied upon as a base load energy, but they are useful to augment the other energy sources. But they are not something that I'm taking very seriously, because they are just not feasible right now. But I can see how there is growth in that sector as well, and I would say do not ignore it. So invest into it. Yeah, but I wouldn't put a lot of government focus into that. I'll rather focus on building nuclear resources which can be relied upon as base load energy. Yeah, so with that said, so other than those side issues and answering some potential comments and queries that might come from the videos that I've looked into, what are your thoughts about this? The 3 videos that I've done, let me know. Comments below. Tell me what your thoughts are. Which part of my plan do you like? Which part of my plan you think needs more attention and maybe augmenting a bit? Yeah, but that would be all for now when it comes to energy. I will do more videos in the future with regards to just infrastructure investment, just general infrastructure investment which exclude energy infrastructure, and then we will look into that, and that will include roads, bridges, port, like waterways and harbors and ports and the trains infrastructure, water infrastructure. There is a lot that needs to go into that. People who are living in Johannesburg have been complaining about frequent water shedding or water outages that are happening in the city of Johannesburg. I would also touch into that because there's a lot of infrastructure built that needs to go. Just that infrastructure alone on its own can also add another 1% of economic growth. That is over and above the 1.5 to 2.5% that I just discussed, just based on the energy aspect of it. So if you take the energy, which I've covered now in these 3 videos, including this one, and then you add infrastructure investment, which I will cover in probably some other videos in the future, maybe in the next coming days or the next coming weeks, we'll see, depending on whether I have time. That would actually add around another 1% of economic GDP growth, which will give us something around just below 4% growth, or let's just say 3%, which would actually be a big improvement from where South Africa is right now. Yeah. So and so when it comes to infrastructure, I'm talking about water, I'm talking about roads, I'm talking about bridges, I'm talking about the railway system, trains. I'm talking about the harbors, Sandral. I'm talking about the ports. I'm talking about things like that. Yeah. I don't know what else am I forgetting when it comes to infrastructure. Or maybe you could talk about also the ICTS infrastructure, like what do you call it, Wi-Fi, internet, things like that. I suppose you could add that as well. But I think the priority right now would be the ones that I named before, not necessarily internet. Because with regards to internet, there is sufficient internet coverage in all the major cities in South Africa. That is to say Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban. Bloemfontein, I suppose we could add Bloemfontein into that, and Pietermaritzburg as well, I suppose, PE, East London, Polokwane. So I don't think that that's an issue. The main issue would be the other infrastructure points that I've mentioned, which are roads, water, bridges, railway lines, railway system, functioning railway network, things like that. Yeah, but we'll talk about that another time. Yeah, till next time, folks. Till next time.